Begin today the Gemara on Daf Kuf Samach Zayin Amud Beis, 5 lines up from the bottom of the Yamud, where it says Ahu Tavra. So the Gemara Ahu Tavra, there was this receipt to have a chasam alei Rav Yirmiyah bar Abba. Rav Yirmiyah bar Abba was signed on it. This is a receipt that was written and given to a woman that she already got the payment of her ksubah. Asil kamei hahiyitze. So a woman came in front of Rav Yirmiyah bar Abba, Amra lei, and she says to him, Lava no avoy, it's not me, even though it has my name and my husband's name, but it's not me, it's somebody else that has the same name. So Omar, Rav Yirmiyah bar Abba said, Ano nami omri luhu, I also said to the witnesses that were signed on this star with me that lav ihihi, that this is not her. This is not who this woman is, this is not the one that we wrote this receipt for. But the Adam told me that you're wrong. Make ishu the kashala or bagar lakala. She aged a little bit, and she changed in her appearance, and her voice may have changed as well, and therefore you think it's not her, but really it is her. So therefore Rav Yirmiyah is saying, I see that it really is you. This receipt was written for you. So originally Rav Yirmiyah himself had said that it's not her, but now Rav Yirmiyah is changing his mind and he's saying that it was clarified to me that it is actually you. Amar Abaye, so Abaye said about this, Afal Gav, the Amar Rabbanon, even though usually the Chachamim said that the rule is, Kivin Shehigid Shuv Ein Chayzer Magid. Once Adam testifies something, they can't later come back and take back their testimony or change their testimony. It's learned out from the pasuk by Edis, which says, that Adam have one chance to say their Edis. They can't come and say their Edis and then come tomorrow and change and every day change their Edis. They say their Edis and that's it. So over here, Rav Yirmiyah bar Abba came and he testified and he said that it's not this woman, and now he's changing and he's saying that it is this woman. So is he able to change that? But nevertheless, in our case, it's different because Tzur b'mirabanon, a Talmud Chacham like Rav Yirmiyah, lav orchel medak. It's not customary for him to notice and see, to look at a woman to see specifically, is this actually her or not? So the fact that L'chatchila he said that this is her, and then later he said, or originally he thought it's not her, and then later it was clarified to him that it is her, it's not considered to be that he's changing an edus that he knew definitely first, and now it's changing. He didn't pay attention, he didn't realize properly. Ahu Tavra, another case similar regarding Rav Yirmiyah bar Abba, the have a chasam alei Rav Yirmiyah bar Abba, that this receipt that Rav Yirmiyah bar Abba signed in it. Omra lei, so this woman came and said to Rav Yirmiyah bar Abba, Lav ano avoy, it's not me. This wasn't signed for me. I never received the payment for my ksubah. Omar lo, so over here Rav Yirmiyah bar Abba told her, Ivre an tavis. No, it was you. It is you that signed on this. I know it was you. Amar Abaye, so over here Abaye clarified and said, Afal Gav, the Tzurba, Mirabonon, Lav, Orchila Medak, even though a Talmud Chacham not necessarily could rely on him, that he would see and pay attention to know that it's this woman and not another woman, but Kivin the dok, that but nevertheless, since he comes and tells us that he did pay attention to make sure and see that the one that he's signing for, who this woman is, and he recognizes her, so we can rely on the fact that he's saying so. Amar Abaye said, Hai Tzomrim Rabbanon, the Ozil Kedushi Itze, a Talmud Chacham that's going to be Mekadesh a woman, Nidbar Amaretz Ba'adeh. He should take along an Amaretz together with him in order to make sure who this woman is and to make sure that he sees that this is the one that he wants to marry. Why? Because Dilme Machlefulamine. Maybe if he's not going to be sure to bring someone else that's going to pay attention to make sure that it's this woman, so then they could switch it for someone else. The woman could be switched for someone else, and he's not going to notice the difference that it's another woman that they brought. Yeah. Okay, so interesting. So here there's a machlokes between the Rambam and the Ravid regarding the subject, regarding a person getting married, whether you can get married even without going and seeing. Also, the Gemara says, that a person shouldn't get married to a woman until he sees her first. So the Ravid says that's the halacha. A person can't get married without seeing this woman first. But here in our Gemara, it's mashma regarding this Talmud Chacham that even if the Talmud Chacham himself, the husband, the man that's getting married to her, doesn't see her, he can go and get married, and he's just having someone else that's making sure that it's that woman. So it's mashma that he doesn't even have to see her. Kedushin. So the Kedushin is the marriage. That's the first stage of marriage. It's an Eish. No. This is the Kedushin. But on the other hand, the Mefarshim there and the Rambam say that he's taking along the Amaretz to go and check out this woman for him. So he wouldn't have this Amaretz do a Isser for him if it wasn't allowed. If he's asking the Amaretz to do something for him because he knows that he's not going to be able to check out properly to see who this woman is, if he wants to marry her or not. So he's having the Amaretz do it for him. If he was able to do it himself, he should do it himself. But otherwise, he has to take this Amaretz with him, as you see over here. So the Amaretz doesn't have to necessarily be a Amaretz. You could have also a good Shatchen or whoever it is. But the point is that you have to make sure that you're getting married to someone that you know.
What's the reason he's taking an Amaretz with him? Because
to know who this woman is, to know who he is.
So what he's saying, that his looking, he doesn't want to look at her, or
he won't realize who this woman is. He won't pay attention properly. And even more so, the Gemara says they can because he's not even paying attention, so they can switch it with another woman and he won't notice the difference. Okay, sagt the Gemara weiter, going back to what it said in the Mishnah, Va'abal. Yeah.
No, they do that sometimes when, let's say, a person wants to buy a very expensive piece of jewelry.
You
so
bring
you take somebody with you to know. You don't know what you're looking at. The other guy is an expert. He knows what he's looking at.
So it said in the Mishnah that the husband, when you write a get, so who's the one that pays for the scribe that's writing the get? The husband. Why the husband? My timer. They're both equally benefiting from this get. Usually the halacha is the one that benefits is the one that has to write. So why is the husband the one that pays for the get? That answers the Gemara. The pasuk says v'kosav v'nosan, that he writes the get and he gives her the get, which means that he writes. So he has to be the one to tell the sefer to write the get, and he has to pay for it as well. It's his get that he has to write to give to her. Now, today that we see the loy of din and hachi, that we don't do this way, and we have the woman pay for the get. Why is it changed? Why don't we follow what Chachamim instituted based on what it says there in the pasuk? Shadua Rabbanan Aisha, the Rabbanan said that the woman should pay for the get, in order that he shouldn't make her wait and cause her to delay the giving of the get, because he's going to use this as an excuse that he doesn't want to pay for the get. So in such a case, we have the woman pay for the get. So the Rishonim say that doesn't mean that she must pay for the get, but in a case where she wants to get divorced and she wants to get over this quickly, so then we have her pay for the get, but it has to be his get though. So she could pay for the get, but it's the husband then that has to tell the sefer to write the get, and the husband has to be kind of this get in order to give her the get. The Mishnah then said, when it comes to a document of a loan, we can write this document for the borrower, even if the lender is not there. And then the Mishnah went on to say, who pays for it? The borrower, because he's the one benefiting from this. It's obvious that the borrower pays. Why should a lender? He's lending you money. Why should he have to pay for this shtar? Obviously, the borrower benefiting pays for it. And says the Gemara, the Chiddush of our Mishnah is in the following case, be'iske. In a case where someone's lending you money, but it's not just a regular loan. It's going to be then an investment. And in a case of an investment, actually the lender is also gaining from this. The profit is going to be shared between the borrower and the lender. So even though there's a shared benefit here, but nevertheless, right now, who's the one that's getting the money? You don't have the money. He's giving you the money to then go and invest for him. So therefore, the main benefit is by this borrower, and therefore he still has to pay for this document. The next case is said in the Mishnah was you can write a document for a seller, even if the buyer is not there. And then the Mishnah again went and said that who's the one that pays for this document? The buyer, because he's the one that's benefiting. So again, the Gemara asks, Pshita, it's obvious that the buyer is benefiting and he should write the shtar. Answers the Gemara, the Chiddush in the case over here is, when the seller is actually gaining here as well, because he's selling a property that's not even a good quality, doesn't produce fruits properly, or the seller owns this property that is a far distance from him and he's looking to get rid of it. So you may think that it's his benefit as well, so let him write the document. And therefore it says, no, that the buyer still has the main benefit and he has to write the document. Then the Mishnah says, when it comes to the shtar edison and the suin, who's the one that writes the document by marriage? The chassan is the one that writes it, because he's the one that's gaining here. He's buying a wife. He's getting married, so he's the one that has to write. In fact, the Gemara pshita, this is obvious as well. Answers the Gemara, even in a case where this chassan is a Talmud Chacham, now the father-in-law is very happy about the fact that he's marrying off his daughter to a Talmud Chacham. So you would think that we would say to the father-in-law, pay for this schus that you have to marry off your daughter to such a Talmud Chacham in order to be mekarev your new son-in-law. Therefore, the Mishnah says that even in such a case, it's the chassan that has to pay for the documents that's used for the edison from the nisuan. Now the Mishnah went on to speak about a case where you have a worker that's coming to work in a field, and there it also said that who's the one that pays for this document? The worker, because he's the one that's gaining here. He's the one that's getting a job by this person. So the Gemara asks Pshita, it's obvious that he's gaining and he has to pay for this. Answers the Gemara, the Chiddush in our Mishnah is in a case where Bebura, where in the beginning, for the first year or two, when he's being hired, the field is being left empty. We learned about this earlier in the Masechta that in the fields you don't plant them year after year because then the soil gets the energy in the soil gets used up. You have to leave it empty sometimes for a year or two. So over here he's being hired, but he's not gaining right away. It's just sitting empty for a year or two. And therefore, even in this case, we say that the employee that's being hired has to pay for this. Then the Mishnah said that there's a star that's called star birurin. This is a star that both of them, or both of the parties that it's being written for, have to be there for the star that's being written. And what did the Mishnah say regarding? Didn't say regarding who pays for it. They both have to pay for it. The Mishnah said they both pay for this star birurin. Okay, so now the Gemara clarifies what is this star birurin. My shtari birurin. So there's two different explanations for this. Hacha, here in Bavel, Targimu, they explained, Shtari Tanasa. This refers to the documents in a Din Torah where each side in the Din Torah presents their argument. So each one gives their arguments, then you document them. So you can't then later come and change your arguments and say, no, I said this, I meant to say that. It's documented. That's what's called Shtar Birurin. And you write down the tinus for both parties. That's one shot. Rav Yirmiyah bar Abba, Amar Rav Yirmiyah bar Abba, which was in Eretz Yisrael. So there in Eretz Yisrael, they explained the Mishnah that the Shtar Birurin is Zeh Beiru Layachad v'Zeh Beiru Layachad. In a Din Torah, when you're choosing the judges that are going to be the ones that the judges Din Torah, so the way it works is, as the Mishnah says in Masechta Sanhedrin, you choose one judge and then you choose another judge, and then they agree. Each one chooses their judge, and then those two choose a third. So you write a shtar birurin, you write down a document, the agreement that it's called a zabla, that each one chose their dayan for this din Torah. That's the shtar birurin. So both of these pshatim are correct, and these are two ways of understanding this Mishnah. Then the Mishnah went on to say, Rav Shimon ben Gamliel says that l'shneihem kaisvin. This shtar birurin is written for both of them. Shnayim, two shtaris, l'zeh ba'atzmai or l'zeh ba'atzmai. So one has the shtar for himself, and the other one has the shtar for himself. We don't have one shtar that's written here, but we write two shtaris here. Now, which is mashma that Rav Shimon ben Gamliel is adding, and he's arguing on what the Tanna Kama says. According to the Tanna Kama, when it comes to the case of the shtar birurin, you only write one shtar birurin. So the Gemara explains what is the basis of this machlekes here. Now the Gemara is going to explain this according to the pshat, the first pshat that the Gemara said here, hacha, the pshat they said in Bavel, that it refers to the shtar where the Bali Dinim write down their tainus, their arguments of the Din Torah into the document. So it should be documented what their arguments are. So what's the argument? Whether you write it in one shtar or two. Leime, shall we say, b'koifin al midis zdaim kamiflagi. They're arguing on what it says in the Mishnah, in Pirkei Yavis, whether we force a person not to behave the way people behave in Zdaim. What did it say in the Mishnah, in Pirkei Yavis, that Rashbami brings? The Mishnah there says, when you say, Shali, Shali, v'shalach, shalach. What's mine is mine, and what's yours and yours. Fair and square, we're not sharing. So that's called, the Mishnah says, in one opinion, midas daim. Midas daim means that I'm not sharing with you anything that I have. Over here as well, if you're going to say that you write two shtaris, like Rav Shimon ben Gamliel says, it sounds like Rav Shimon ben Gamliel holds that when a person comes along and says, I'm not interested in sharing with you one document which is going to have the information of my tainus and your tainus, we're not sharing the shtar. I want to have a shtar for myself, and you're going to have a shtar for yourself, and what's mine is mine, and what's yours is yours. That's a midas daim. Why not write it all on one document? Why spend extra money and write a separate document? He doesn't want to share. So Rav Shimon ben Gamliel, the Marsova, so the Tanna Kama. First, the Gemara explains the Tanna Kama. The Tanna Kama holds kaifin. We force this person to behave like a mensch, not to be like a person in Zdaim. Let's just write one shtar, and we can share that document. If you want to see what it's written in it, and I want to see, we can share it. But the Marsova, Rav Shimon ben Gamliel says, ain't kaifin, that we're not going to force him to not behave like Zdaim. It's not menschlich, but if you want to behave that way, what are we going to do? So we're going to give you a document that's going to have only your tainus, and the other person gets his document with his tainus. Says the Gemara, loy. That's not the pshat here. The kula alme koifen. We can say that everybody agrees that we force a person not to behave like midas daim. V'hacha haina taimid Rab Shimon ben Gamliel. Here, the reasoning of Rab Shimon ben Gamliel is because the amalei, because one person in the Dentaita says to the other, leinichali, I'm not comfortable with this. That the heavy zechusach gabes chusi. That your arguments should be written on one document together with my arguments, because the damas alike, arva arya arva, because you're to me like a lion that's looking to ambush and attack me. So you're going to have my tinus that are written on the same document with your tinus, and you're going to have it in your possession. You could always look at the document and see exactly what my arguments are, and that's going to help you think and figure out exactly how you could then come and ambush me to argue against me. So I want to have my tinus with me and your tinus with you. It's not the Indian of midas daim. It's actually something which is reasonable to demand. A person that paid up part of the loan that he owes. So here we're talking about a case that a person had a loan that was written in a document. Let's say it was $1,000. It's written in the document that he owes $1,000, and now he paid up half of it. Let's say he paid up $500. And what did he do? So he doesn't want that the lender should hold his shtar in his hands. He doesn't want the lender should keep a shtar that says that he still owes $1,000. So the hishlish is shtar. He gives his shtar to a third party, and he tells this person that he gives the shtar to him, if by the time it comes to this and this date, I don't pay up the remainder of this loan, so then 10 lo shtar. I give you permission to give the shtar with the amount that it says that I owe the full $1,000. Give it back to the lender. In other words, he was so confident with himself that he's going to manage to pay up by that date that he says, if not, you can go and give it back to him. He's going to be able to use it to collect from me extra. Now, Giyazman, the time arrives, and he did not pay his loan, the remainder of what he owed. So Rabbi Yossi says, Yitain, you follow what he said. He himself said that he should give it back, so you have to give it back. Rabbi Yehuda says, no, we do not follow what he says, and we do not give it back. Explains the Gemara, no, so this is not an issue of ribbis. They're trying to bring that up. It's not an issue of ribbis, even if you end up paying up more, because it's not, ribbis is what's called agar natar, when you're paying interest because of the fact that the time that you have the money. Here, it's just like a penalty. The person is saying, if I don't pay up, so then I'll get this knas. I'll allow him to take extra from you. But it's just, since it's just like a knas for the fact that he's paying late, so this is not called ribbis. That's what the Rishonim say. The Ma'ikam Iflagi, what's the basis of the argument here? Whether you follow what he says or not. Rabbi Yossi's opinion is asmachte kanya, that when there's an asmachte means when a person says something and there's a reliance on this, that he said something that if I don't do so and so, so then I'll owe you a lot of money. Or here, if I don't pay you by this and this time, you can give back the shtar and then I'll be able to collect from you even what I already paid. That's what's called an asmachta. A person is saying something, so he's really relying on the fact that he's going to fulfill what he says he's going to do. So therefore, even though he said give, usually when a person comes and says that I am obligating myself to give you this and this, the very fact that you say that, so the hidas baldin, you become obligated to do so. But in a case where we see that the person only said it because he was so confident that he's never going to have to give it. In this case, the person was so confident that he was going to pay up on time that he never thought that it would come to this, that the original shtar would go back to the lender and he'll collect extra. So in such a case, asmachte, you said this and you were really relying on the fact that you're going to fulfill and you won't have to pay extra. Nevertheless, Rabbi Yossi holds kanya. Your words take effect. You said so, and therefore your words, the way they are said, will be in effect. But Rabbi Yehuda says, asmachta lekanya. When you say something, and you're only saying it because you're relying on the fact that it'll never come to be, because you'll fulfill what you said, and you won't get this penalty, so then lekanya, your words are meaningless. It's not, you're not really being maida. You don't really want this person to come and have this extra money. Amarav, this is actually, this whole concept of smachta kanya, smachta lekanya, it's in the Gemara and Bava Basra. There's a whole arichas and all the details about this concept. Amarav Nachman, Amarav Baravua, Amarav Halacha Karab Yossi. That we paskin like Rabbi Yossi that says that the asmachta, a person says something like this, it does take effect. Now, Kiyasa Chamed Rabami, they came in front of Rabami, Amaluhu. Rabami also said, V'chime acha, Rabbi Yechanan melamdeinu, Pam Rishayno Shnir. Rabbi Yechanan taught us once and twice about this halacha, that halacha Karab Yossi, that we paskin like Rabbi Yossi. So Ani Mo'asa, what should I do about this? This is what Rabbi Yechanan said, so we paskin like Rabbi Yossi. But the Gemara concludes, nevertheless, ve'ein halacha Karab Yossi. that we do not paskin like Rav Yossi in this case. The Gemara doesn't explain why, and the Rashbam here actually points out that usually the klal is that in any machlokes we always paskin like Rav Yossi. The Gemara says Rav Yossi had nimuka yima, he always had a good reason to his opinion, but nevertheless here the Gemara concludes that we do not paskin like Rav Yossi. A person that had a document with a loan and it got erased. So what does he do now? He can't collect his loan with this document anymore. So Maimid Olav Edim, so he brings the Edim that signed on this document, or Edim that actually saw. Even if it's not the Edim that signed on this document, he brings Edim that saw all the information that was written on this document. Ubal of Nei Bezdin, and now these Edim come in front of Bezdin, and V'oisen like Kiyum. And they come now and verify, they write now a new document that we, Edim, saw this and all the information that was written on the star. That's what so they write now all this. And they write, Ish, Pliny, Ben Pliny, that so-and-so, Nimchak Shtare, his star was erased, B'yayin Pliny, on this and this day, Upliny, Eidov, and so-and-so were his witnesses that we saw on his star. And they write also the information that they saw, that he borrowed this and this amount of money. So you write up sort of a new document. You're not writing the exact same document as before, but you're writing that what they witnessed, what they saw in the document. So we learned in the Braise regarding this, how do you verify and write this verification here of these Edim that saw that document that got erased? What is it that you write now? So they write b'moisav tlasa avina, that we were sitting with three, which is a bezdin of three people that were sitting together. Anu, Pliny, Upliny, the three judges, and Haitzi, Pliny, Ben Pliny, Shtar Machok, and so had an erased shtar lefanenu in front of us. B'yayin Pliny, on this and this date, Upliny Eidov, and so are the witnesses for this, and they write the information that was erased, that was written, that they saw on that shtar. Now, v'im kasav bay, if this bezdin now, that's verifying the original shtar and writing down this information that they have of this erased shtar, they add and they write as well, who's kaknu le'eduson shel edim, that we verified the signatures of the original shtar that was signed, v'nimtzas eduson mechuvenes, and those signatures was verified to be good signatures. So then, goive, now this new document that's written up to tell us about the erased document, you can use now this new document to collect along with it. Then it's tzarich lahavi raya. It's not necessary to bring any additional proof here, because anytime, what's the rule always by every shtar? Anytime you want to collect money with a shtar, you always have to verify the signatures. That's what's called the kiyum of the shtar. So in this case, when the original shtar was erased, but when you're writing up now this new shtar about the erased shtar, if you add there that when the bezdin wrote up the new shtar, they also verified the original signatures of the original shtar. So you can go ahead and use it now to collect money with it. The signatures were verified.
The signatures are okay, but what about the context that's written in the shtar? How do you know exactly what to write in the shtar?
The original, there are Edim here that saw. There are Edim here that saw, and and they're telling the Bezdin that this is exactly what we saw in the shtar. Correct.
The original shtar got discarded on its own, not because it
got
was
erased. They got soon. So that's another point, right? Very good point. The Gemara is soon going to talk about this. It has to be in a case where it's clear that the reason why the original shtar got erased is not because it was paid up. If it's a case where it got erased because it was paid up, I think one of the Shainim here say that it has to be a situation where the Edim that are testifying about the information of the original shtar also say, we were there when it got erased. We saw there was a leak or something happened. We were there when it got erased, and we know that it wasn't because it got paid up. Ve'im lav, if it does not say in this new shtar that the Bezdin writes that we verify the original signatures, so then tzarich lahavi raya, you're going to have to bring proof to verify the signatures. Now nikra, a shtar that was torn, puzzle. That shtar is going to be puzzle. When you see clearly that somebody went to tear the shtar, so then we know that it's very possible the shtar was paid up. Niskara, if we see that it just got a tear in it and it got destroyed, but it didn't happen because anybody tore it, then kasha. Then this is kasha, and then we can do what we said here. You can rewrite the new shtar from what was in the old shtar. Nimchak or nitashtish, if you have a shtar that was erased, or nitashtish means the words got blurred from the ink got blurred and you don't see the words clearly anymore. Imri shumay niker, if the original mark of what was written there is you can read it, even if it's not as clear as it was originally, but you can still read it, kasha, then the shtar will still be kasha. Okay, so the Gemara clarifies regarding this detail of the Braise, heichi dami nikra, heichi dami niskara. How can we tell the difference if it's actually someone that went and intentionally ripped the shtar, or it's a shtar that just got torn on its own? Amar Rav Yudah, so Rav Yudah explained, Nikra means Kera Shal Bezdin, when you see that it's the Bezdin that tore the shtar. When Bezdin tears the shtar, there's a specific way how they tear the shtar, which Gemara will explain in a moment. Niskara is Kera Sheina Shal Bezdin. Niskara is where you see that the shtar is torn, but it wasn't done by the Bezdin. Heichi Dami Kera Shal Bezdin. What's a case where you see that the Bezdin is the one that actually tore the shtar? So there's two opinions here. Amar Rav Yudah says either it's Mokim Eidim, or Mokim Azman, or Mokim HaToref. The Bezdin tears specifically in the place where you have the main information of the shtar. The witnesses, the date, the time, and the Toref, the specific amount of money, whatever it is for this shtar, that's where Bezdin tears. Abaye says Shesi ve'erev. The way Bezdin tears the shtar is Shesi ve'erev, basically like an X, or one line one way and one line another way across the shtar. That's the way Bezdin tears the shtar. If you see it's clearly that it's torn in a specific way that Bezdin tore it. It's not just that the shtar, because of it was so old or some other external reason that it got torn. Okay, so now the Gemara brings a story in connection to what we're learning here. Hano Arvoi. There were these Arabs, the Osul Pumpadisa, that came to the city Pumpadisa, and the Havakaonsi Arasadinshi. They were attacking people, and they were grabbing away territory from people. And when they grabbed away territory, they would also grab away the document, the shtar that owners had to prove that this is the deed of the property. They would grab it away from them as well. So now also Marvasayla Kamed Abaye. So the property owners came to Abaye, and they were concerned that these Arabs are going to come to confiscate their property as well. So they wanted to bavara themselves. They wanted to take care of this in advance. So the Amalei, they said to him, Lechsi Mar Shtare. We're going to bring you the deed of our property. Look at the information that's written in the shtar. V'lichtav lon mar shtara achrina alei. And then you'll be able to write for us, like I said in our Mishnah, when you see a document that got torn, so you can then go and write a second shtar that you saw what it's written here. So write us then a second shtar, because the mitnis chad. So if our deed on the property gets taken away from us by these Arabs, we'll have another one available in our hands in the future to be able to prove that it belongs to us. Okay, so now in this case, Abai says it's a problem. So Abai says to them, what could I do for you? In our Mishnah, what did it say? When you have a shtar that was already erased or was already torn, so now Adam that saw that shtar before it was erased could come and say the information they saw and not write a new shtar. But here it's telling them, what can I do for you? The Omar Rav Safra said, you can't write for a landowner. He should have two documents on one property, because Dilmit Tarif or Hada Tarif. You can't give him two documents, so he can use this document twice to prove his ownership. Let's say in a case where this property got confiscated from him, the seller owed money to someone, so this property got confiscated from him. So he takes out a document once to prove that he has ownership and he wants to be reimbursed, and then at a later point, a year down the line, he does it again. He takes out another document to say that he has to be reimbursed a second time. So we can't give a person two documents of ownership for a property.
Why not? They can say it's a certified copy of the first one, the original.
No, it's not. They can come later, and they already got reimbursed one time, and then that property, they don't have it anymore, and they can say it got that they can try to prove their ownership again, even though they don't have it, and they'll prove it a second time. Yeah. So the Gemara says, have a Qatar delay. So, but these people that were so concerned about their property getting confiscated, these Arabs taking it away from them, so they were not letting go from Abai. Write us a second proof, a second deed. Amalei, so Abai wanted to get rid of them. So Amalei L'Safre, Abai says to his scribe that writes the documents, Zil, go and write for them. So here, he said, write to them a kind of document, a second document, which is actually not a good document. So what is that? Ksuvluhu, write them a document which is hu ala machak. The information of the document is written on a piece of the parchment which was erased before, and the eidov, and then the eidim, the witnesses in the bottom, is ala niyar, is on the original paper which is not erased, the puzzle. As we learned already before here in this Pedic, this is a document which is possible. Whenever you see a document where the eidim are signed on a regular piece of the parchment, and then the top was once erased, so then there's always a concern that the top may have been erased, and he wrote new information that the witnesses never saw. So he says, write them this kind of shtar, which is possible. So he's not being over anything. There's no problem here by giving them a second document, because it's really possible. Now, but Vidilme Rishumi Niker, maybe you're going to write the document once and then you erase, but the first time that it was written, if it won't be erased properly, so then the original markings of that writing can still be noticeable, and then they'll try to erase the second time, and they'll try to use the writings of the first time, and then it'll be a kosher document where the writing and the signatures are going to be from the original document without it being erased. So how could you do this? It's still a problem. And then the Tanya, we learned in the Brisa, as quoted here before, Nimchak and Itashtish, if you have a star that's erased, or it's smudged, or it's blurred, in Rishumei Niker, if the original writing is still noticeable, kosher. It's still kosher. It doesn't have to be perfectly written. If you can still make out the words, it's still kosher. So Abai said, Mikam min shtar malya. Do you think that I was saying, write the star once, write all the information perfectly once, and then erase it, and then write it a second time, and therefore you're concerned that the original time it was written was not erased? Well, Aleph Beis Al Makam. What I meant to say is, first just write Aleph Beis, write whatever it is, and then erase that, and then only the second time you're going to write the shtar. So in such a case, you're going to have a shtar which is really puzzle. So they're not getting a second deed, they're not really getting a second document for their property, and this is allowed. That's what he was talking about.